All right, I think we are ready to start. Thank you for joining the session, all. Good morning. Hope you had a good day so far. Good to see some familiar faces. And, well, we have a mixed environment in English and Dutch, so we are presenting in English, if that is okay for everyone.
Please don't ask me to talk in any other language than English or Dutch, because then we're lost. So, no French, no German, no Spanish. Sorry.
So today we talk about apps, taking your apps to the edge, and, well, even without AppV, and I know many of you still use AppV, so that's an interesting topic to talk about, we think. And to introduce ourselves, my name is Berry Haverman. I'm the solution architect for Liquidware in Northern Europe. And with me is my colleague,
Andreas Verwingerde. And combined, we did the math yesterday, and he was very generous in not giving away our ages, but combined we have over 40 years of experience in end-user computing. I'm a solutions architect as well for Liquidware. Since September of last year. Before that, I spent 20 years at Citrix, doing basically the same, trying to explain to customers what we as a tech company do and what it means for them. And that's the same thing I do here today. So if there's any questions after the session, come and tell me at the booth I didn't do my job properly, because I should have answered them right here. Or if you want more in-depth, then Barry is about to give you at the end. We can always spend hours talking about our technology. So, anybody take a wild guess as to why I put 1981 on the screen? No, it's not my year of birth. Unfortunately, I'm a bit older than that. It is
I'm not that
indeed. It is indeed the year of birth of my wife, but also the year of birth of the personal computer. It's the first time, 1981 was the first time we got the worst thing in history, a personal computer, and especially the personal part. Because ever since, every user thought of the device as being his device. He should be the owner. And ever since 1981, or actually a few years later when we got more like the multitasking, we got the challenges around our application life. And if we look at today's scenario, one of the things we're seeing is that what I get back from a lot of customers is that this is a very time-consuming process. How do I make sure that the user at the end of the day gets the application he needs at the moment he needs them, and that they work functionally correct? This morning during the keynote, I saw some pretty scary stuff, that half of it I already knew was possible. The other half was the fact that it was so easy. I knew the cheap prices for credentials, etc. I've seen enough of those types of demo scenarios, but the way she was actually able to capture a token indeed led me to believe that, okay, we've got a long way to go still. But how does that relate to applications? Well, applications is something we want to bring into the more context-aware environment as well. So perhaps that was the link she was trying to make this morning during the session. Next, we see that's become very complex to get apps there in time at the version level you need or you want. The fact is that we've actually, over the last 2 years, we've made it even more complex by all of a sudden having to work from home, working remotely, introducing all these types of devices. Even my customers from the past were all of a sudden confronted with an ever-growing attack surface, as they would call it. The possibilities of people attacking the environment have exponentially grown. Now, obviously, we've always been doing applications ever since day one in the old-fashioned way, the way it was meant to happen traditionally, installing the app, which is a great way of doing things if you look at an application compatibility. I mean, if you're an ISV and your app doesn't install, then you're in trouble. if all of them would spend as much time on looking at how they uninstalled an application, we wouldn't have as much problems perhaps as we have today. But installing apps should always be possible. The problem is it doesn't fit every use case. Installing apps is nice when you still think about it from a personal computer, physical device with the end user, but becomes a bit of a challenge if we look at later developments in the life cycle of the personal computer. Virtualization once, and now when we look at cloud-based environments. AVD, Cloud PC, especially Cloud PC is basically just an empty PC managed by Microsoft, which has nothing in it. How do I get my apps there? Do I really want to spend all of that time on high-quality storage in a virtualized or cloud-based environment? Can I afford to? Do I really have to? Now, application virtualization came next, and this morning I ran into somebody who actually still had a pen of, I think, one of the pioneers of application virtualization. He was actually carrying around a Softricity pen. And I was like, I wonder if that pen actually still works. I mean, the pen itself was fully intact, but those were the guys that initially started this technology, which later became Microsoft AVD, which was a great concept. The problem was, because it is isolating the app in its own little bubble, in some occasions, more often than not, we ran into the situation that the app was too isolated. And we would have to punch additional holes in the whole application layer. Or, even worse, and I've seen this too many times, actually install two apps into the same bubble in order for them to work together, making application lifecycle management truly a bit of a mess. Because now, all of a sudden, you had to not just see, oh, I've got package A here, but what's actually contained within package A? Should I update it? Can I update it? How does it work? Next, Microsoft have basically stopped development of AppV in 2015, or at least that's the official story. Some will say that they've stopped much sooner than 2015. Others will argue, oh, they only put it in extended support in 2018. Fact of the matter is that for at least the last 4 years, no matter how you look at it, perhaps even longer, they've basically said, we're going to stop, and in 2026, it is end. There is no expiration date unless you really want to cough up a lot of money. Like we know with Microsoft, everything is possible if you pay enough. But basically for us mere mortals, 2026 is the last date that AppV is officially supported. Now, Microsoft will then say, oh, but it's part of Windows 10, we should follow the Windows 10 lifecycle. Still, this is by now an ancient technology. And what I want you to believe is the next big concept.
Does anyone know, by the way, what the first name of Softricity was, or AppV? And before that? And what their goal was? It was software wow, and they are streaming games. So they were far ahead of competition, actually, but they decided to go into office software eventually. So, just a fun fact.
Looking at Stadia's success recently, maybe they did the right thing back then to already start selling that technology more to the enterprise. But nevertheless, what Microsoft is now, or what we're seeing in the industry, is the whole word containerization. Containerization is going to be the way forward. And I like it if you're on a phone or a tablet, because that's where it originated. The problem is, the phone and the tablet OSs have been built up from the ground up with the whole notion of containerization. All the apps built on those platforms have been built based on the fact it's a containerized environment. Windows is not. By far not. I've seen too many apps developed over the years that will never work in a containerized manner. Next, if we look at MSIX support, and this is coming straight from Microsoft's website. Basically, if you're going to look at MSIX, and you think this is going to be the way forward, and you really drank their Kool-Aid thinking every ISV is going to be releasing an MSIX, bear in mind that in order for MSIX to work, you need always the latest version of the underlying operating system to get full functionality. Which is nice from an end user perspective. I think most of us here tend to actually immediately push update when Microsoft or Windows comes up with, there's a new update for your OS, but the average enterprise is not. Server OSs, which are still heavily in use when we look at either VMware or Citrix, or I should now say cloud company, and whatever VMware is going to be called once they've been acquired by Broadcom. But their virtualizations environments still rely heavily on RDS. Why? Because it's just cheaper than VDI. Very simple business math. There, the gap is even further. So MSIX is nice in theory, but it's a long way from where it should be. Also, when we look at application compatibility, this is not something I've cocked up. This is based on the report done by an independent resource about application compatibility when it comes to AppV versus MSIX. And for the purpose of this session, I've added in the piece about how would we compare. And what you can see, that clearly see, is that if you just used MSIX, only 30 apps out of the 74 he tested were able to be packaged using MSIX. It took additional tooling to get at least to 60 for success. All the rest was partial or completely failed. So that's also the current state about MSIX. And I know there's a lot of sessions today about this topic, but these are the hard facts tried and tested. When we look at FlexApp, we already have a higher compatibility rate than AppV, let alone MSIX. Now, yes? Yeah, that's what I refer to as MSIX plus tooling. And once you get a hold of the session, there's actually the link to the report. And although it will ask you to register, he's got a link on his website because apparently he has some mix-up with this registration, so you can go directly into the report without leaving your personal details. So I've made it as easy for you as possible to verify what I've said once you get a hold of the slide. Now, another thing we've seen recently is once we look at the virtualized/cloud-based environments, MSIX ain't gonna cut it, because MSIX will be installing apps on the virtual environment, meaning a lot of stress on the storage. So Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, thought, you know what, we've bought a company for their virtual profile disk solution. We're going to leverage that and ask you for some additional money to use MSIX App Attach. It's a separate product. It's not part of MSIX. One of our Dutch-based consultants with one of our partners actually done a test to see how does that relate to the way FlexApp's Liquidware does it. And what you can see, especially the average startup time of adding the apps to the environment, is a lot faster when using FlexApp. The downside is that we use, on average, 7 to 8% more memory of the endpoint, which is logical when you think about it, that we're a third party and MSIX App Attach is first party coming straight from Microsoft. But then again, we add a lot more functionality, and a bit of more functionality actually consumes a little bit more memory. The average, if you read through both documents, what you will find is that they will say, you know what, MSIX, it's nice, but it is still very a technical thing. You need a lot of expert knowledge enabled for you to actually be able to package applications and be able to get things working. Yes, Microsoft is making great strides in making it at least look smooth on the outside, but to get success needs a lot of work. So in summary, when we look back, we'll see is, okay, traditional applications is polluting. Basically, we're consistently changing stuff on the underlying operating system. In a virtualized or in the average organization, the concept of golden image is anything but, right? Golden image once implied you had one image to rule them all. I've not ran into any organization with 20 years at Citrix that only had one image. There was always a multitude of images and maintenance and automation scripts to roll out and deploy stuff. Another thing is every app tends to have its own workflow. Every process has its own workflow. Oh, okay, this is going to a physical endpoint. I need to package the app this way. Oh, this is going to a cloud-based desktop. I need to package it that way. On and on and on. Oh, I need to do this for VMware, or oh, I need to do this for Citrix. Every approach takes a new solution. And thereby the interoperability becomes a bit of a challenge. If you look at virtualization or containerization, both still suffer from the same basic concept of isolating the app from the rest of the environment. And as an end result, the user experience suffers. For the average non-IT user, having an app that doesn't behave the way they are accustomed to is unexplainable and will result in help desk tickets. So when looking at your next step after AppV, it is clear that you really need to understand and make choices around, okay, what am I going to be doing next? How will that next solution help me when it comes to migration? Will it be able for me to quickly change over from what I have today into what I need tomorrow? Will it help me without forcing a big bang or a complete rework? What about the compatibility of the solution? Because if application compatibility is very low, that means that I will need an alternative solution to cover all of the other use cases that aren't covered by the original solution. And what about future developments? Maybe today you think, oh, I'm just using physical endpoints. But what if a pandemic hits again tomorrow? What if we get a lockdown? Or what if all of a sudden a business unit decides, you know what? That cloud PC Microsoft is trying to push me looks interesting. I want to be giving this out to a few of my users. Or what if I'm only on virtualization today? Well, if you're only on virtualization today, there's a good chance that tomorrow you will have physical machines in your environment. Just by looking at what we've seen in the past 2 years, the implications of using Teams in a virtualized environment. And that's where we come in. And this is also where I tag in my brother from another mother.
Thank you. Yes, so we dropped the name a couple of times, FlexApp. So keep that in mind. That is the name of the application layering solution we have and offer to our customers. FlexApp, in fact, is that flexible way of attaching applications to your environment, whether it's a physical environment, whether it's a cloud environment or virtual environment. And if you think about that, and this is, I already talked to a couple of people today that are using some other layering solution that is attached to that cloud company, for example, or trying to use the same layers into another scenario, like the laptop scenario, for example. We believe that the packages that you create can be used on any platform. So that's really the flexible way of managing your apps. We just need a Windows OS. We just need a platform, whether it's, like I said, physical laptops or a virtual desktop. And then we just deploy our agent on top of it as the context engine. So our agent is deciding what user is logging on, what machine is this, and what applications do I attach to my OS. And I say to my OS because from an end user perspective, the applications are really as if they are installed on the endpoint machine. And that's where the compatibility comes in, where the integration comes in between other applications and all the benefits of layering applications, but with the flexibility of using all the packages on different scenarios. Now, of course, when we talk about compatibility, like your profile management solution, your profile container solution, or your application rights management or policy management, all the applications do integrate with the existing solutions. So if you have application settings already, if you have profile settings already, if you have policies that need to apply to a FlexApp application, that will work just out of the box. You don't have to change your whole process or your whole environment just to use FlexApp. So that's the easy part, right? Installing our agent, package your applications and attach applications to your OS. Now, we can use the packages, like I said, on all the different use cases, whether it's a physical laptop or virtual desktop or cloud desktop. So if you think about that and you want to talk about migration, like Andreas did, migration means that you can use the same packages that you built for your on-prem environment today, tomorrow on that Windows 365 cloud PC or Azure Virtual Desktop, for example. And that's interesting, not only to save time, but also speed up those kind of implementations when you are in a hurry, for example. We also bring single management. Like I said, we just package an application once, and you can reuse the same packages on the different platforms. So you have to maintain a single package, a single application. If you change your golden image for Windows updates or for your Office updates, for example, you just continue to use the same package. You don't have to bring those two together, or you don't need to keep your original golden image intact to have the ability to edit your applications. No, it's just our package VM, and you can build a new one tomorrow, and you can still edit your existing packages. So that's, again, the flexibility and also the efficiency to edit your applications. If you need automation, we can bring that as well. If you don't want to package recurring updates for applications, weekly or daily maybe, or monthly, we can have an automation engine doing that for you, help you to achieve that DevOps strategy inside your organization. When we talk about elastic, that again means we do attach applications on demand for your users. So if your user logs in, we look at the context of the user or his location or his machine, and then we decide to bring the applications without a noticeable difference for the end user. So again, for the end user, it's a transparent solution. They just find their applications in your start menu on the desktop. They can open it from Word or Excel or anything, just as they are used to. And last but not least, of course, the hybrid scenario or the cloud scenario. Again, if you already have applications packaged today, you can still continue to use the applications on your new environment, even if we do not know what the future will bring us in terms of Windows OS releases or cloud developments. This is the biggest difference with installing applications, because it looks like we are installing applications, but in fact, applications that we package are still in the layer. So we don't touch anything from the system except for playing back the app. So we do show the files, the registry keys, etc., but we don't touch the original base OS. So when you remove an application or update an application, there's nothing left behind from the original installer. Right, so that's a big benefit if you think about that for your golden images, but also for your physical laptop or desktop installations that normally need a refresh of the OS install every 1 or 2 years maybe, because there is so much pollution on the OS. Now, how do you create Flex apps? And I know a lot of you are technical, so a lot of you also will have packaging experience with other products maybe. It's somehow the same experience. You need a package machine to create a package. That's normal, right? You have a package console where you can use your existing resources like executables or scripts, or even existing AVD packages or MSIX packages, and create FlexApp format for your environment. Normally, you will have one application per FlexApp, or you can have multiple applications per FlexApp. That's more like an administrative choice, how you want to manage and assign your applications to your end users. Do you have personas, or do you just want to use AD groups based on the application titles? That's all on you. If you want to optimize your packages, and we will see that in the demo as well, of course, after packaging, you can clean up the package, you can edit the package, even update packages afterwards if you need to. So that's the fast packaging console. And with fast, we mean we don't add too much overhead on installing the application itself. So it's just starting the capture install the application, and seal your package. Now, if you think about that and what I told about automation, we offer in the same product a control plane that allows you to send packages automatically with your automation product or with PowerShell, for example, to our control plane, which will package the applications for you on the same package machines. So it's the same infrastructure, but we just put a control plane in front of it that allows you to tell the control plane, package these apps, check Chocolatey for new updates for applications, package the applications, and give me some of the FlexApp layers ready to test. We even can automate the assignment of the applications for you to your DTAP environment of something like that. Now, platform agnostic, and this is, again, this is really important because other solutions, not all can do this. Like we said, we do not know for sure what tomorrow will bring if you think about the OS or the platform. So it's really important if you package an application today, you are sure you can use it tomorrow on that newer OS, Windows 11, Windows 12 or 13 or whatever may be released by Microsoft. But also, integration with other platforms. This is really important. If you think about that and you manage applications with, for example, Intune or Microsoft Endpoint Manager or Workspace ONE, you still want to use the same packages, right? If you think about Citrix or VMware app publishing, you still want to use the same packages and have them integrated with the publishing mechanisms of those platforms. Because you don't want to change all of your workflows inside the organization just because you decide to use another packaging solution like FlexApp. So all these platforms are supported. A couple of them are also in the picture. And we just offer on top of that also different ways of playback for the applications. So we can have user login, we can have machine boot, we can have on-demand, or even offline if you need to. So laptops, that use case, of course, can be offline. So you need to make sure the applications can run offline as well. Now the compatibility, and you remembered the diagram with FlexApp with the really high compatibility level of plus 90%. And that is because all of these features we have in the product. And you will recognize a couple of them, I hope. But there are a couple of interesting ones. This is one of the most important pieces, the inter-app and inter-OS communication, of course, because we are layering, we are transparent to the OS and other applications. So that will already achieve a high compatibility level of apps. Think about fonts, think about add-ins for Office, think about apps that need to work together. But also, of course, a lot of technical features, file type associations, context menus, icon overlay, DCOM integration, drivers, printer drivers are really important these days with all those virtual queues and virtual printers. So just a bunch of features that help you to deploy the apps and also scale out the reach of FlexApp for your applications. Any questions before we go into the demo? Yes?
We have the post-launch scripts, right? Like machine scripts or user scripts. So do we have such feature?
Yeah, good question. So we do support pre-launch and post-launch scripts, also pre-deactivate and post-deactivate scripts to run. So yeah, if you have those in place for your current AV packages, you can use the same scripts in FlexApp as well. Sometimes we solve licensing issues with that or copy in newer configuration files for the application without really editing the layer.
It is, however, something we really encourage you to really think about because our packages are basically multi-tenant. If you put something in scripts inside the pack or attached to the package, that basically limits it to one specific use case. That's why we say a lot of this stuff perhaps should be done on the user environment piece of the total puzzle. Because we're all fully transparent, you can easily just do all of those things from that layer in the total solution. But it's all up to you. We offer it as part of FlexApp to actually do pre-launch, pre-activation, post-launch, post-activation, PowerShell scripting. But my advice is always, if you look at it from an enterprise perspective, is okay, do we really want to stick it in there, or do we want to make it easily accessible to maintain over time without having to reopen up the package?
So this is a packaging VM. The packaging console in front, you need to log in to get to your repository. So you have access to all of your existing applications that are available to edit, update, clone, and things like that. But this is also the way of creating manual packages, so creating a new package. So for this demo, I will just pick a simple app, Google Chrome, and that's it. So I choose a name, AME Chrome, and I can click Create. Nothing fancy so far. What we can see in the background is that there is a folder being created with that name. So this is our layering environment. This is the repository on a simple file share that holds all of your applications. Applications, yeah.
For the backend, is there a database or something needed? Or,
Our management server runs their own database. So it's an integrated database. You don't need an SQL cluster or anything.
Plus, you can actually package offline. So if you were to have a packager that is off-site without any access to the environment, you can actually package straight on your local machine without having a connection. It's one of the scenarios we actually thought about looking at it from a professional services perspective, for instance.
So what happens? There is a virtual hard disk created. I start the installer. Like I said, you can just follow your own application recipe, for example, to install the application, or use a silent installer. It's up to you. You can just use the next finish installation, configure your application. Everything that you do is captured in the capturing machine and translated to that virtual hard disk in the background. As you can see, it's really growing because of the temporary files and the setup extracting, and that's it. Chrome is installed. I can click Finish. It will wrap up the disk and add it to my inventory. So this is just basic packaging. I didn't do anything fancy, but it's simple and it's quick. It's just a installer and capture process at once. Now you can still choose to extend it, install an update, for example, install a second application in the same layer, configure it for a user perspective, so configure the user settings, or save it. So now I saved it, and it's in my packaging console, and I will sort it on date. AME Chrome, there it is. And if I want to edit it, for example, and I want to clean up things, or I want to change some configuration files still, I can now mount my disk and browse inside the layer. There we go. So you can see everything that is captured, but of course also the junk some of the installers create that you need to clean up. Of course, you can have exclusion lists. So if you are familiar with the product, you can create your exclusion list to exclude certain locations. The same applies for registry, of course, and other pieces that are installed by the software. Now we also manage shortcuts from here, so we can have a shortcut management inside the package. That means if you are assigned to the package, you also have the shortcut. If not, you won't get the shortcut. If you want to decide to have shortcut management elsewhere, that's fine. It's a normal installation of an application, so as soon as the application is assigned, you will find the application in the program files directory, and you can assign a shortcut manually to it with some other user environment management solution. Now, for example, I want to remove the update services because I don't want Google to update every time I assign it to a user. So I remove it and I click Save. Settings are committed to my package and I'm ready. So this is one way to create a manual package. Now, if I want to convert, for example, an AppV package, again, I use the same console, I browse to my existing AppV packages. So I point to my AppV location. I select the AppV file. And I click Convert. And what now will happen, we will read the config files, the XML files, the AppV file, which is extracted. We translate everything that is in the package around registry, of course, the files and the scripts into FlexApp format again. And the end result will be as the Google Chrome package, that we have a entry in the inventory that you then can continue to use as a FlexApp application, but also update it from there. So you can decide to convert it, update it from that point, and go with FlexApp. Good to know is that, and that has also to do with the compatibility of other products, you can still run AppV side by side with FlexApp. So if you are looking into migration scenarios, you don't need to go over one night, migrate all of your AppVs into FlexApp, because we can still run side by side. Yeah, we don't integrate with an AppV package because that one is isolated still. But we can work the other way around. So the AppV can work with FlexApp. So now I have two packages created, AME Chrome and OpenOffice, ready to assign to my user, which I will do in a second. Now, like I said, if you want to use automation, we can have our packaging machine instructed by a simple PowerShell script. So for example, and I can show the script, it's just a bunch of parameters I'm sending to my packaging engine, which I can run for multiple packages at once, or a single package. And in this case, this is a single package for the Videolan player. I'm sending the script, it's connecting to my packaging engine, and it's waiting for feedback. So it has sent these parameters to the packaging engine. It's working, it's checking again, checking again, checking again. Where are you? Are you finished with packaging? And if you look at the window behind here, we will see a folder appear called AME VLC 308. So if we give it 1 second, here you can see AME Chrome and OpenOffice. It's the same library, so we are
There it is.
using the same environment, and there it is, AME VLC. So if you open the directory, there's the package. So the disk, an icon, and some metadata. So this is automated packaging, and you can imagine if you have more than one package or more than one package machine, you can do hundreds of packages at once. Now, yeah, sorry. Okay, so now I want to assign my applications. And this is the management console for my Flex apps. So this is the inventory. I refreshed it, and on top are the 3 packages we just created. So AME Chrome, AME VLC, and OpenOffice, which was converted from AppV. Now when I go to my assignment, I select my AppManagEvent, go to the FlexApp icon, and add a rule to assign my apps. So I simply can browse down, OpenOffice, AME Chrome, AME VLC, save it. I can still assign a filter if I want, so the context can be assigned here. I commit my changes. So I said to my environment, I want to publish these changes. So nothing happens until you publish the changes to your environment. And now I can just select a demo VM, and my user Pete is logging in. You will get the desktop. You will see a quick splash screen when the apps are mounted to the OS, and then the icons will appear on the desktop and in the start menu for these applications we just created and converted. Now, from an OS level, like I said, we will find the applications in the normal operations of Windows. So if you go to Program Files, you will see the Google folder that we created, the application, the whole file and folder structure is there. And from an application perspective, we can just start the applications as normal for the end users. We will find that in the Start menu, of course. There it is, Open Office, Chrome. So transparency for your end user, that's really important. They have the user experience as if the applications are installed. Now, last but not least, this was an assignment based on applications coming from, thank you, applications coming from a network share, but there can be other situations. If you have a laptop which is not connected to your corporate network, for example, and you want to push your applications with Intune, you can have those layers published as a single entity. So a single file that you can publish with Intune or another device management solution and push the applications to your cloud laptop, for example. And now this machine I have here is a cloud managed machine. So it's a Intune managed machine. And we have our own executable that gets the applications to the machine from a cloud storage location. So this is an empty machine. We have no applications installed except for our FlexApp 1 tray. And just look, if I click the FA1 tray, application will start coming in. So it will check. There it is on the screen, downloading from cloud storage. It will check for applications in my blob storage and which are assigned to me. It will download it to the machine. They will completely be available offline and attached to the machine on demand right now. So applications are coming in as soon as they have connectivity from a laptop or a cloud desktop. So just a couple of different ways of adding applications to your environment based on your scenario, but all of the machines are using the same packages in the background, and that's the most important part of using FlexApp and having that flexibility to do so. So that's my demo, and I'm giving it back to Andreas. There we are.
Yeah. So to sum it all up, what we've talked about and what we've seen, the power of FlexApp is all about that the app itself has full platform or OS integration. There's no isolation whatsoever. We have a full-blown AppV replacement for you to offer. We have a fully multi-hybrid cloud, right? So you saw different scenarios in deploying the application. And yes, we're leaning heavily in our demos on Azure and Intune, but if you're more like an AWS guy or a Google guy, there's no problem. We are fully transparent. The only thing we need is a bit of file storage somewhere for us to store the apps on. We reduce the golden images, and we have a full need of automation. These are the reasons why you'll be looking at FlexApp. And Barry showed you a simple script. What we've done in the past is, for instance, also help customers transition over from an SCCM by using our PowerShell API and talking in one hand to the SCCM that has all the apps currently defined and have them speak to our automation solution to automatically actually package overnight. One of the things I have in my demo is that I talk to Chocolatey, and every night it checks, has there been an update to any of the applications I've got predefined, thereby consistently having my lifecycle management on apps. So bottom line, with FlexApp, I tick all of these boxes. This is no need for you to look at FlexApp just because, oh yeah, you know what, we've got a refresh of the desktop next year. No, this is today. You can do this today very easily. We offer you enhanced security by updating the apps consistently on a day-to-day basis. At least we will be plugging all the holes caused by 0-day, fixed already by the ISV, but just not within your own organization because you're still running outdated apps. On that security perspective, one of the two things we have currently in development is to also add in technologies like OAuth into the package assignment so that you can actually check if the user who's actually running all of these offline available apps is actually part of your environment, and it's not some third party somehow get a hold of your apps and trying to access your environment. So those are the things we're consistently looking at because we see all these new use cases, because we see all of the different threats. And it's part of an overall solution. Yes, we've been talking just about FlexApp, but in our mind, if we look at the workspace of tomorrow, it's comprised of different things that all need the same thing, be hybrid, be ready for physical, virtual, and cloud. And it's not just since we've started yesterday. We've been around since 2009. We have a lot of companies already leveraging and using our technology. And application layering is not just us talking about it. There's a reason why VMware and Citrix has done this in the past as well. With us, however, we are the only ones that offer this across every type of desktop delivery strategy. There is no other that's leveraging this basic concept and then saying, you know what? I don't care if you're running Windows 10 today. If you want to be running Windows 11 tomorrow, fine. No need to repackage. And that's it, because I'm getting frantic calls from the back saying, quit, lunchtime. If you have any further questions, or if you want to see this offline scenario physically, come by at the booth. We've got a few live demos that we can give you, or you can just watch the video if you're afraid to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks.